Good evening, happy Friday, and welcome to Fools Rush In at the earlier kickoff time of 8:30. So thank you to everyone who noticed the time change and has joined us early doors. It's been a season of highs, lows, and a hell of a lot of mid. Players and managers have come and gone, but one thing that has remained the same is a core group of supporters offering varying different content 3, 4, 5 times a week all across the season to a very high standard. I'm delighted to say tonight I'm joined by a number of the key contributors to those. But before all that, as I've been posting about a lot, we are joined by one of our favourite guests across this season and one of the few STFC trophy winners of this campaign. But before we say hello to Grace and to Michelle, let's roll the titles.
Take my hand, take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love with you.
As always, the live chat is open on YouTube and Facebook, as well as tweets such as Mike's, where he's just informed Woody that Fyfie hasn't even posted his retained list for next season yet. Who do we want to see back for the new campaign? Does Woody keep his place? Do we keep Ben? And are there any recruits out there in social media who deserve a place on the Fools panel? Let us know ahead of the transfer window, of course. But let's get serious as we say hello to everyone joining us in the chat as well, including Danny, who I'm desperately going to try and persuade to make an appearance at some point. I can see Claire was on the case as well earlier today on Twitter. You can do this, Danny, just once. Appear on the Fools panel. Let's say hello to Grace and Michelle. Good evening, ladies. How are you both?
Hi, guys.
Thank you so much for, again, coming on, taking time out of your very, very busy schedules to talk. Well, just to me this time. It's just me with such a full panel coming later.
Fyfie.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But genuinely, how are you both? Are you glad everything's done now? The season proper is done. Ready for a rest. And when I say rest, I just mean more football up and down the country.
Oh, yeah. We've still got a full-on weekend, actually. But no, we're really that cup match is done. Like, at the end, you were a bit emotional, weren't you, coming off the pitch?
I nearly cried.
But it was a mix of winning and just she'd got it so built up in her own head, hadn't you, that week? She's like, Mum, every time I think about it, my heart's racing. I was like, all right, this is ridiculous. We've got to calm down about it. So, yeah, we're glad it's done.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it has to be said, first and foremost, congratulations, Grace. As we've been saying all week, winners, 2-1 at the weekend. Tell us, I don't even know where I want to start, because obviously we spoke to you, a week before the final, and you were telling us how you were feeling and sort of the mentality going into it. So talk us through the day. Let's start with the journey up there. At what point do the nerves sort of kick in, or were you quite relaxed up until the point of getting there?
I was not relaxed at all. I looked all right on the outside, but on the inside I was just freaking out. So I was trying to keep it all good. So I was just chilling, just having a nice car ride. So I got dropped off with my friends. My friends drove me to the bus, and then we had a really good bus journey. Like, we were pumping up to the jams.
And the bus was a lovely touch as well, wasn't it?
It was a very nice bus.
And I mean, we were speaking again, the guys and I were talking at the weekend, and then we were speaking obviously to Kiana on Monday. It did look a good atmosphere on the bus with the posts that were going out on social media.
Oh, TikToks. It was good, wasn't it? They did a good job.
Yeah.
I think they needed that. I think if she'd carried on, if you'd been on the bus in the state you were in the previous couple of days, that would not have been good.
I reckon I would have hidden in the bathroom or something.
Yeah, like literally, I've never seen her so nervous for a game. You're not normally. Yeah, she was really.
Just shows what it meant to her.
Yeah, you wanted it, didn't you? The whole team did. All the girls wanted it so bad.
During the warm up, Jordan could tell how much I wanted it. I was like giving it my all in the warm up, and I don't know why. I just really wanted it. I think all the fans and the amount of people that had rocked up to watch was amazing, wasn't it?
So actually, Michelle, let me ask you, because we got a sense about how it all unfolded, and you know, it might, even the warm-ups and stuff we were being told didn't exactly go as it was being planned and thought out beforehand. But again, I like to ask you about these things as a parent. How were you leading up to right up until kickoff?
She's worse than me.
Yeah, I knew. I was trying to I was pretending I was fine because I knew she was nervous. But I felt for all the girls, they've worked so hard this season, the whole team, and I knew how badly they all wanted it. We've had an amazing side, and we'd obviously had a loss and a draw against them, and we wanted this win so bad to prove that we could do it. And so the day I know it sounds awful, we're so used to a morning kickoff. So by the time 4 o'clock came round, I couldn't drink and that would have been a bad idea, but I couldn't drink because I was driving. But I was like, by the time the match kicked off, I was beside myself. I probably embarrassed myself during that game. I'm not going to lie.
If she had a Fitbit on, it'd be like 140.
Oh, my heart rate would have been through. I am loud as it is, but I was extra that day. Yeah.
And so talk us through the game then, Grace. It didn't go entirely to plan, going 1-0 down.
Not really. So I feel like we were all very unsettled in the first half. We knew the plan, but it kind of all went to crap. So we kind of just were trying to survive.
I didn't think they were great either, though. Both teams were nervous.
Yeah, I think they were still better than us, so they were still putting more passes together. And then their free kick went in, and then I think after that we kind of switched on more, and we were like, we'll fight this now. We have to go and get it. And
I almost think that goal.
I know that she was a good free kick, but it was kind of lucky to go in because it came off the post. So, yeah.
That goal changed the game, though. We hadn't scored. I mean, I think still Key would have given them a good talking to at half time, but I feel like that goal sort of changed things. If it hadn't had that goal, I don't know if we'd have carried on.
Well, I did actually. I recall on Monday's episode, Michelle, you commented in saying the game needed the goal.
Yeah, it did. I think for the fans as well, we're all just, oh my life, something needed to happen. It just felt something didn't feel quite right. It wasn't like our Swindon girls that we know and love. So yeah, just something needed to happen.
Woody in the comments saying, my ears have just recovered from Saturday, Michelle. Well, I had to be your megaphone at one point. Loved the passion.
I'm not going to lie, I peed my pants at one point. It was that bad. I was that excited.
My mother, ladies and gentlemen.
And so to come from 1-0 down with all the, not necessarily the pressure on you, Grace, but the pressure you put on yourself and obviously your team put on each other, to be able to turn it around. Did you always have a sense it would happen, or were you thinking at one point it's just going to be one of those days?
it's always going to be one of those days. It's just
I didn't. I believed. I knew we were going to turn it around.
as much as I was saying like, oh, we're going to win, we've got this and stuff like that. I know that there's a bit of doubt in the back of my mind just saying, you can't do it. You suck, you're crap. But I was like, go away. It's like a fly that doesn't bother you, that keeps bothering you. And then just squash
I think as captain, you've got to keep the rest of the team going. Like can't. It doesn't matter if you're 6-0 down. I think it's like your job to keep it going.
Yeah, when we brought it back 1-1 though, I thought it was going to go to pens, so I started thinking about that.
Well, actually, yeah, because I wanted to ask you about this. I know we've had the conversation about penalty shootouts previously when you've been on, but I wanted to ask, because I knew Michelle wasn't feeling that at all.
I prayed to the penalty gods that wasn't going to happen on Saturday.
I was going to ask you, does your mind automatically go there, and at what point are you already planning how it's going to play out?
Absolutely. When we went even 1-1, I started thinking about, all right, how am I going to distract them? How am I going to put them off so I can save it or they miss? How am I going to be Emmy Martinez?
Emmy Martinez is the answer no one's ever given when say, who is your role model? Absolutely love it. So obviously the girls do turn it round and you do win. And what's that feeling like? Because no matter what age group you are or anything, a lot of people, no matter what level they play football to, will never get the opportunity to win a competition. So what's that feeling like when the whistle goes?
It's instant relief, and it's like all the motions you've been holding in since like our second goal, it just comes out. And I think there's a photo of me and one of my centre backs, Amy. She's just literally jumped into my arms. I was just giving her the biggest hug, and I was just like, it's over.
Especially because it was a hairy moment about 5 minutes before the end. Grace had a moment where she panicked.
We don't talk about this.
We don't talk about that.
Is this the fumble?
This is the fumble. So I think everybody that was watching had a moment where they were like, shit. she sorted it out, didn't you? It was all good.
I have to ask about the I want to say trophy presentation, the lack of trophy presentation. And
I wanted my big cup. I wanted to.
Had you already thought that bit through and then it was just taken away from you?
Well, also, we were the last ones to get presented, so I felt like, as we're still taking photos, they're all packing everything away. They're out of there.
Unbelievable. And what was it? The under-11s players trophy that you were given, has that been correctly remodelled?
We've had a little plate pocket, so now we've won up Oxfordshire League we've removed the sticker and we've now had a little plaque put on it.
Oh, very smart. Very, very smart. Love it a lot. And then again, much like the journey there, the journey back looked just as fun.
Oh, it was more fun. The coaches are having a karaoke in the front. The girls are picking all good tunes in the back. I think we had cupcakes and everyone was just getting food out. I think food was the go-to thing. I had a hot dog when I came off the pitch.
I don't blame you in the slightest. Do not blame you in the slightest. It would make viewers and listeners sick if I was to confirm what I had to eat after I finished my black belt grading a couple of weeks ago. So I won't go that far into it, but a hot dog is nothing by comparison, believe me.
Look, as long as it wasn't ketchup and rice, we're good.
Well, ketchup was involved. There was no rice. I can assure you that much. So again, Michelle, when it all comes about, like you say, you've been there through the whole journey. You've seen them right through to final. How are you feeling when the girls win the trophy?
Oh my God, incredibly proud of that entire team. They are the loveliest bunch of girls, and like they're supportive of each other. I can't explain. Like the girls that weren't even on the cup game squad were still there cheering for the rest of their team. Like.
They are just as much of the team.
Yeah, it didn't matter who was on that
who
pitch
played
that day. Everybody deserved that win, whether you were on the pitch or not. They are just the most amazing team. Like probably one of the best teams I think you've ever played
best
for.
Team I've ever played for.
I don't know. They just show up for each other every time. Yeah, no, I'm just incredibly proud of all of them. I'm sure as all the parents are. I'm Jogs. This is Juby.
It wouldn't be an episode of Fools without a pet walking
Precisely.
right in the
So
middle
your,
of the
cat,
screen.
your cat's been very well behaved tonight, Fyfie.
I don't. Well, the problem is I haven't checked where my cat is, which means at some point he's going to just sneak up on me and probably bite me.
Oh,
It's what's likely to happen.
I love that we don't even discuss him. We just see you removing him. You're like that every week.
Just
move him out of the way.
Grace, Woody, as we were saying off camera, a lot of the Fools regulars are taking the opportunity of a Friday night off to sit and watch Fools while they're not on it. Woody sent a question in. You mentioned before about the inspiration from your brother. How did it feel winning in front of him?
You have to spell it right. Don't worry, Woody. But my brother's such a big idol for me because he started first, and I was kind of like the younger sibling, which just kind of followed him. And he was there, and I could. Usually he's just shouting a little bit. I can rarely hear him, but he was absolutely going for it. It meant so much to me for him to see me win like that. It's just the best thing.
He got hugged first, may I add? I mean, I only heard it first, but yeah. Her brother was, he's definitely. He moves to America in August. You're going to miss him, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, looking ahead, do you think how much, if any, of an impact do you think that will have him moving away to America? Not having that inspirational figure there.
To be fair, I'm actually thinking about doing the same thing he's done, so going on a scholarship. But I know that I'll miss him so much.
You'll miss him, but you'll still want to do him proud. So she'll still bring it next season, won't you?
Yeah.
And with thoughts already turning to next season, I know when you were last on and we spoke about the summer, if I remember rightly, Milton Keynes, there was something. Is it Milton Keynes? You were going to do I want to say loan. It's not loan. You were going as like guest or visit to goalkeeper.
I know they're in need of a goalie.
Yeah.
We haven't discussed it with their manager yet. We've got she's guest playing for them in a tournament.
Guest player is what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, she's guest playing for them. She's guest playing for Headington Roll team as well. She's got a trial up at Aston Villa tomorrow, but not for Aston Villa, for just like it's just a goal. She's on some sort of goalkeeper talent program that she's been part of.
But of course, it wouldn't be a talent program without Grace.
So she's got that. So she's got things, but I mean, Swindon's her absolute love. That's where you want to be next season, don't you? But it's always good to sort of put your name out there, isn't it? And we obviously don't know what the managers want next season. If they want her, she will be there. Like Swindon's your priority, isn't it?
Yeah.
But obviously we don't know anything until the summer, until it all starts up again. So
until you start pre-season and I get jacked.
I just love like you.
Of course.
I just love that all you hear is about players at all levels. They just after a hard grueling season they just want to relax and so on and so forth. All you hear for Grace is no, I'm going to go and play for this team. This team, I'm going to go play here. I'm going to go and do this, and then pre-season starts.
If I don't do anything, I'll just get really bad when I come back.
It's actually forgot how to catch a ball, but she also coaches. She helps coach Ducklington Under-8. Oh my god, a little shout out for them. They're such a great little team.
Shout out Ducklington.
They've got tournaments, so she's already like. I love that she plans all these things and she's not actually driving. So
it won't be long though. We've discussed this before. It won't be long till she's driving.
No, it won't. She's got a theme we booked in for her birthday, haven't you? So August will be there. She's the youngest in the year, so all her friends are driving. But we'll get there, won't we?
When they're all 40, I'll be 39.
Yeah, that's basically
that's all I've got.
That's all she's got.
That's it.
Mike saying, let's just hope Grace doesn't forget Fools Rush In when she goes all big time.
These are like,
of course not. I'll still come on here even if I do make it.
Not even if, when.
Yes, when. I love that.
We're in no doubt whatsoever. So kind of, it's difficult to say, but the assumption that the story as you're seeing it play out comes true and you're back at Swindon and stuff next season, what's the aim? Is it retention of the cup, go one better in the league, that kind of thing? More appearances in the first team where possible?
The double next year. Double, absolutely. Cup and league.
Nice.
I think
they could take it. They're such a good team.
Because this was our first year, we've done so well. Done unbelievably well as our first year together. I think it could not have gone better, and I think next year we're just going to smash it.
We had a couple of matches where we just weren't on our game. And
Oh
that
yeah,
cost us,
against
didn't it?
like
But
Headington was one of those games. I think we
Summertown.
lost like 4-0, and then Summertown we were up 2-0, and then we came back to draw 2-2.
It's just been so it's just been one of those.
So it's basically just going to be working out those kinks and making sure we're on it every game.
Now, I know we spoke about your football journey the very first time you came on Fools, but something I am interested to know, because you hear this, again, no matter what level, no matter who you talk to, we know you're an excellent goalkeeper, but when you see certain things happen, do you see yourself think, I could be a striker, I can do this, or I could be a winger, or I could do defending?
I've got a decent shot.
It's funny you mentioned this. So she's guest playing for Headington, so she trained with them yesterday just to see their all team. So she wanted to see the girls, and their keeper was at training, so so she was playing outfield with them, and she was putting some shots away. And Mike, the manager, was like, "How did I never know you could do that, Grace?"
Because I couldn't used to do it.
You used to play defence.
Dave makes me practice.
That's Dave for you.
Because we always take shots against each other in training. Dave makes me practice.
We weren't going to get through a show without mentioning Dave, were we?
No, and it wouldn't be right to not mention him. Again, it's always so refreshing when we get the opportunity to talk to you, Grace. But what would you like to say to like the rest of your teammates for the season you've just had?
I think it's well deserved. You girls are so good, and there's no really words to describe it, because we've bonded so quickly, and I think they're probably some of the best teammates I've ever had.
Oh.
They're so loyal and they're so good. Like, if you're having a down day, they'll pick you up, and it'll just make you feel so much better. Like, if I'm having a bad day, I go to training, I come back and I'm like, oh, I had such a good day. And I'm just, it's that type of thing. Yes.
We had the presentation night last night, and most of them were there, and we just had such a laugh, didn't we?
How was it? How was the presentation evening?
It was good. Played rock and roll bingo. We're actually obsessed with it now.
One of our friends won 30 quid.
Oh yeah, there was big money going Fyfie.
Oh well, I can tell. I'd love to win 30 quid at bingo. It'd be a dream come true right now, that's for sure. We've got a couple of comments coming in here for you. They do say goalies are frustrated strikers. And Woody says, let's not forget the pep talk you gave Faith at Summertown too.
God, I don't remember that.
Wait, what?
I think Faith's probably sick of you talking to her. To her, Faith. And they see quite a bit of each other outside of football as well. Like, she's probably, I don't know, she just manages. She's used to you now, isn't she?
Yeah.
Well, I've only got a few minutes left with you before we let you both go and enjoy, firstly, your Friday evenings, your weekends, and then the summer. We asked Grace what she plans to do, other than seemingly driving up and down the country, Michelle. What's your plans for the summer?
We are very lucky. So we've got a busy weekend this week. Like I just said to you before the show, Dad's surprised by coming home. He works out the country. So we're going to go and have a few days with him. And then me and Grace are actually off to Florida. So I go to Florida every year. We used to live out there a few years ago. So I go meet my friends. But this year I'm taking her, dropping her off in South Carolina with her friends. And we're just going to have a complete break from everything.
Believe it or not, that's another football friend.
It is a football friend. And I just think she deserves it. She's had such a full-on season, having to cover for all three teams at one point.
Yeah.
And it'll just be nice to have a week off. I know how much you love it, but a week off with no football. Just for 1 week.
Are you going to be okay doing one whole week without football, Grace?
Probably not. I'll take my gloves and boots as well.
I was going to say, guarantee you're taking your gloves and a ball. Woody can't let you go without one last comment. He's put, Grace, I only coached you for a short time, but I rarely find a player with such drive and passion as you do and want to achieve. Keep smashing it and you will go far.
Thanks, Adam.
Well, we wish you guys all the fun over the summer. Like, will you still be broadcasting or?
Yes, we'll still be broadcasting. I'm currently finishing the plan for June. June's always the hardest one because there's literally nothing. Like from July, transfers start kicking in a little bit, pre-season friendlies. So June is where we bring out the stupid quizzes and games and stuff like that.
The ones that get a wrong answer.
Oh dear. That's not Grace that does that for any managers that might be watching.
It's not, I promise.
Me.
I promise.
Well, on the subject of managers, I have one last question before I let you go. I threw Kiana kind of the curveball question of asking her what you're really like behind the scenes. So it's only fair that I give you the same question about her. So what's she like to be around?
She has her heart on her sleeve as well. She's bubbly and she's actually such a good manager. She's got knowledge and everything you need to be a manager, and she can relate to us as well, which is so helpful.
I mean, you can really tell from the way that you both talk, really. You can feel the camaraderie, you can feel the respect as well, and the trust in each other. And that's not just about you two, that's about like even the other players and coaches that we haven't had the chance to come on. You can feel that embodied in you two, the way you've spoken, particularly this last week. As always, thank you both very, very much for taking time out to talk to us. I can see that tonight's panel is starting to assemble in the lobby, so I wish you enjoy America.
We will.
Enjoy the break. Enjoy all of the football.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having us. We absolutely love you guys.
I'll come on again whenever you need me.
Yes, well, I was going to say, there is always a Grace and Michelle size space available on any panel that you want to be on. So don't be strangers and come and visit again soon, please.
You got
it. Bye, guys. Have a good Friday night.
Bye.
See ya. Always very much enjoy when we are able to be joined by Grace. But as I said, the main panel for tonight's show are starting to assemble in the lobby, so it's a huge honour and privilege for me to be able to introduce, I think, unless I'm much mistaken, every single one of these guests tonight are making their Fool's debuts. So I would like to start, if I can, by welcoming from the official supporters club first, Chris and Vic. Good evening, both.
Very good evening to you, Fyfie.
How are you? Are you well?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, I spent a day on the Southwest Coast Path, which I like to do quite often. So, yeah, tough 10 miles, but lovely. Nice to do.
I'll be honest. So, quite often when I'm at work, I go for just a walk in my lunch break around the block, and I'm scrolling through Twitter, and I love nothing more than when I see your tweets of whatever scenery you've been walking past that day. It's just like, oh, yeah, no, that's cheered me right up after the morning I've had.
Yeah, well, I completed it the other week, which is 630 miles. So just to punish myself, I went back and did a bit more today. So, you know, it's the 50th anniversary of the path, and people are doing their own congratulations for it, which is lovely.
Well, that's well, I mean, obviously it deserves it, but say 630 miles.
Yeah, I did it over 5 years. It's not like...
Well, yeah, of course. No, I didn't. I wasn't expecting it to be blasted out this week, but it's an incredible effort, to be fair. And
it's interesting because, you know, 5 years ago, it seemed remarkably easy, but not quite so this time. You know, at the age of 67, the legs aren't quite as tough as they used to be. Let's put it like that. There's
still plenty of yards left in them, though, I'm sure. And if you're doing that sort of thing every day, you're certainly going to be lasting a lot longer than I am as well at the ripe old age of 33. So I wouldn't worry too much about that bit. Like I say, firstly, I've got the rest to invite on shortly, but I just want to say to everyone that's coming on, thank you for taking time out. I know Friday night isn't always the easiest for people, so I really do appreciate you both agreeing to come on for what I'm sure will be an entertaining look back at the last 9 months or so.
Well, yeah, you're stopping me watching the repeats of Doc Martin on ITV3, which I'm recording.
To all the Martin Clunes fans out there, I do apologise. Next up, I would like to say hello to a gentleman that you two aren't unfamiliar to, and that would be one of the two old duffers. Good evening, Kev. Welcome to Falls Rush In.
Hello, everyone. You all right?
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. Again, as I say, thank you very much for agreeing to come on and be part of this sort of Marvel-style STFC Avengers combination we've got going on here.
No problem at all. I'd just like to say that I have done what Vic's done, but I've done it in my car.
I'm a bit annoyed, Kev, because you got more shirts up tonight than you normally have up. So we're a bit jealous about this, Chris, aren't we? This is,
He's prepared, hasn't he? He's been prepared.
Yeah.
He's just been watching everything you've done, Vic. He's like, I've got to get as many as I possibly can, just in case.
Well, I've gone for the stripped down version tonight. So
it's probably the right thing to do coming on here is just strip everything back. It's very much a low budget production.
I didn't have time to prepare properly, so there we go.
Mike said, Fyfie, does hosting a panel that Vic Morgan is on scare the life out of you? The primary voice of Swindon Town commentary. In a word, yes. It does, because I'm surrounded by all these professionals, in particular, Vic, and I'm like, just to paraphrase one of my good friends from our show, Ben, who everyone knows really. At the start of every game, he says, just don't be shit. And that's basically the pep talk I gave to myself before this. Just don't be rubbish at this one tonight, please.
I think we all do that. Don't worry. We all do that. Is everything going to go right? That's it.
Everything will be fine. Because like I say, I'm surrounded by professionals.
No,
are we being paid tonight then? If we're professionals, are we being paid? I
am happy. I'm happy to offer you the same wage that I offer the Fools regulars, which is just my gratitude for appearing.
Fair enough. That's fine.
Next up to the panel, I'd like to welcome a young man for his Fools debut. He's done a load of vlogs over the course of the season and well worth a watch if you get the opportunity to do so. Good evening, Alex. Welcome to Fools.
Hey, mate. How you doing? Who doesn't love a crossover, right?
Oh, well, this is it. For whether it's a Marvel film or whether you're part of that Disney Channel and Nickelodeon generation where any program that was any good crossed over with each other, this is what you're looking for.
Yeah, I always used to love the Power Rangers when I was younger, and they would always do like crossover episodes, and that used to make me very excited. I guess this is the Swindon Town equivalent.
Well, I'll take that. I'll take being a Power Ranger. I'll be the big head in the thing, if you like, that's just doing all the talking while everyone else is saving the world. Again, as I say, thank you for taking time out of your Friday evening to come on. I appreciate it massively, and hopefully you'll have an interesting and unique insight into the season as well from your perspective that I'm looking forward to hearing. But just before we do all of that, we also have the representatives from Low Strangers to welcome on. So good evening to Rich. We've got Joe and we've got Dan as well. It's almost a full house on Fools tonight. How are you, gents?
Well, I resent not being called a young man in my intro.
Sorry. Let me
accurate, but
let me correct it. Let me introduce a very young man for his Fools debut. It's an honour to have such a promising youngster in the STFC content world as yourself join us.
I like this intro sort of like one by one thing because it's giving me Royal Rumble vibes. So nice. every couple of minutes, someone else is going to come in and we're going to just scrap it out. I'm all for it, but it's a pleasure to be here. Salut, everybody! A privilege to be asked to come on. I'm looking forward to this.
It's not quite the same with my bottle of water, but salut indeed.
It's funny you say that. I feel like we're the NWO in a way, aren't we? And who'd be who? You're definitely the Hogan, Rich.
Thank you very much. Nicest thing you've ever said.
We've done these sorts of chats before where we've compared ourselves to wrestlers, and I generally get either Big Show or Rikishi for my sheer physical stature.
And your dancing ability, of course.
Well, obviously. Well, for the regulars, for Fools, they'll know that myself and Claire Follett had an agreement where if my boy Tommy got 10 goals this season, I would be dancing live on stream. Thankfully, not thankfully for my personal reasons, but thankfully for the viewers not having to see that, he struggled to even make 10 appearances. So never mind 10 goals.
Wiltshire Premier Shield counts.
I was trying to make
Actually,
the Wiltshire Shield count. They weren't having it. At all. Before we get involved, we've got some more comments coming in. Good evening to Sean, who's watching in. Woody has responded, never mind, Fyfie Mike, look how professional the panel look. Yes, they're putting me to shame, to be honest. What else have we got here? Jake said, do you know what? I appreciate Jake joining, given that he should be getting his mind right for the playoffs. Salford fan. At least the name tags are better than last week's. Indeed, that was a bit of a faux pas on one of our panelists' part. What else have we got? It's so weird, this combination of voices. It is indeed on a pod. I'd like to start talking about the variant. Oh, actually, before I do, for anyone tuning in who is a fan of the Tom Broadbent Lounge and wondering why there's none of their contributors here, the invitation was accepted initially, but I got a message this morning to say that nobody was now available for a variety of reasons, so they've had to step out of this one, unfortunately.
Run.
Before we talk about the season itself, I'd like to talk about the varying content, if I can. And Chris, Vic, I'll start with you. From an OSC perspective, how have you enjoyed the sort of varying interviews, for example, that you guys have got to do? And has there been any highlights from a content creative perspective?
Well, loads. I mean, I've got to say first and foremost that Chris sets up all the guests, so I'm just a voice on a stick. So Chris does all the hard work, and gets all the people lined up, which is fantastic. And so we're lucky to get who we have on. I guess the highlight was having Charlie Austin on the couple of days after his debut against Grimsby, just to talk to Charlie Austin about that debut and how there was a lot of dust around the county ground that afternoon when tears fell from people's eyes because it was such a great moment, that header. But that, I guess, was one of the highlights on a season when, how many highlights have we had? Not many, really. But
More
Chris,
panelists than highlights.
Yeah. Chris does all the hard work. So over to you, Chris.
No, I think because ours is in two parts. Got the review of the previous game, which can be difficult. And because we go out at 7:00, we have to be a bit careful. But the other side, the on the sofa, with all the ex-players and everything, is just great. I love it. I love tracking them down. Help from Rich in some parts as well. But yeah, just love that and getting the different eras all on. It's just great. Love it. Especially Peter Easter, who my story is I was actually talking to him in a cafe in Devizes, and I went all a bit stupid because I was so overawed because he was talking to me, which caused a bit of amusement in the cafe. But yeah, no, it's great. Love it.
Yeah, I've got to say that was one of the highlights for me to talk to Peter Easter, who one of the greatest strikers we've ever had, and he was a striker for us in a particularly miserable season. I seem to remember he came on loan initially from Wolves, but what a player he was, and he went on to have a great career, of course. So well done to Chris for tracking him down. Chris's biggest task is to find Will Dixon, my favourite Swindon player of all time. I know she's on the case and trying very hard to do it. Rich Pullen, he has that look about him.
I'll check the list for you, certainly. And I think what was great about the Peter Easter episode is like it's very easy to get footballers on these sort of channels when they were playing late 90s up into the 2000s and later. But when you get people like Easter on that just give you an experience, a story that most of us in this racket don't remember or weren't even alive for. That is just, it's amazing, and that is what we're all appreciative of when those sort of guests come on, because we learn what Swindon Town was like in a different era, in one that looks so alien to what we have now. And that was a really good bit of it was a great conversation.
No, 100% agree. Chris, on the point that Vic made, all the stuff that perhaps people don't recognise that goes on behind the scenes in setting anything up, but particularly something like the OSCs, whether it's the On the Sofas or even just the standard review panels. How much do you enjoy that side of things? Because it can be a struggle at times to make sure everything falls into place how you want it to.
Yeah, I think we're kind of lucky because we've got a set agenda. So we have Mondays after the Saturday game, we have a panel, and we do have a rota already in place. So it's just a case of making sure that they're available still, if not finding substitutes. And I'll mention Dan in this because he was one of our regulars and still is one of our regulars, and hope so into the next season. But the On the Sofa,
have I been retained?
Well, I don't know if we've done a deal for him yet.
You're on my
I thought he was everybody's regular.
Yeah. On every guessing.
Hey, I'm on Falls now as well.
Yeah. On Falls now as well.
Wash bag.
But the On the Sofa is what I enjoy most. It's just the detective work and trying to get them. I'll tell you a story about Duncan Shearer. I managed to. He was obviously in for Descali, his last job, so I phoned them. He wasn't there anymore, but they said, "We'll contact him and give him your number." He was working for a parcel delivery firm, so he phoned me when he was out on a delivery, and that kind of thing. It's just great. I love that kind of thing. But I am still trying to get hold of Will Dixon and Roy Carter for Vic. That's his two that he's requested. But it can be frustrating as well when you have a guest and at the last minute they decide to cancel or for various reasons, and then it's down to Vic and I to quickly assemble a panel together or just sit and talk nonsense. One or the other.
Yeah, no, I 100% understand that one. The amount of times where I think it's going smoothly and then I'm just like, oh, hang on, it's Monday night. I better see, is anyone actually available tonight to come on? Because I just nonchalantly think it's going to fall into place. Vic, you're widely regarded in sort of legendary status. Do you, when you're doing these sorts of things on the weekly basis, do you kind of feel that when you're doing it, or is it just sort of natural to you and that's just a byproduct in the background?
No, legendary basis, I think is the word you're looking for. I mean, I love it. I mean, this is just, we're talking about Swindon Town Football Club, for goodness sake, and miserable though this season has been, we're still talking about the club that we all love and we all want to see prosper. And, who doesn't get enthusiastic about that? I mean, there's a comment there about Dan's rants, and he comes on a Monday night and rants, and it's great. Why wouldn't you? After the miserable season we've just had,
I'd rather we were winning, just to be clear.
Yeah, quite. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I want us to win all 46 matches plus a couple of cup ties, if that's possible.
A couple of cup ties would be lovely.
Oh, it would be a run, wouldn't it?
Cup ties.
Yeah. I mean, it was great. Last Sunday, we went to the Tom Broadbent game at the county ground, and I was lucky enough to be doing the commentary on it. And there's some great players there, and I get very starstruck when I'm talking to players. I mean, Michael Timlin came up and said hello, and I went, "Oh, hello." I'm like, still to this day, and I can talk to managers and until the cows come home. But once a player comes up to me, I'm. It's a bit like Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin. If he comes up to me and talks to me, I'd fall over backwards. It's like that. It's very strange because we're all fans at heart, aren't we? Simple as that, really.
100%. Alex, let me bring you in. Obviously, with regards to vlogging, it's slightly differently and can be very individual at times. Have you had any personal highlights over the course of the season through your content?
Yeah, obviously it's been a terrible season this year. We all know that, but there have been some really great moments. I guess obviously Charlie Austin's first game back was a really, really emotional day. For me, I was quite young when he was here the first time. For me, it is genuinely, that was my boyhood hero. And to see him now in adulthood, see him back in the jersey. Unfortunately, he's not wearing the 32, which was personally very upsetting for myself.
Wow.
But
shall we take a sweep now on who thinks he will be next year?
But yeah, hopefully he takes the 32 back. It'd be brilliant. Although I've paid to put 11 on the back of my shirt now, so
Oh
he
no!
could have done that the first time. But yeah, like that was definitely a big moment. I think both the Gav Gunning, well, all three of the Gav Gunning games were really entertaining ones. Like maybe one day he could be a future Swindon Town manager if he sticks around that long. And I'm someone as well who's like obviously left home and has started doing away days for like the first kind of proper time and going stadiums like Edgeley Park and stuff. I really enjoyed that trip, going up to Manchester, having the weekend there and stuff. Harrogate, obviously last season was really special as well. So there are still some really interesting things there. Like a lot of the time you go for football, not for the football, especially in our case, we have to ignore the football sometimes, especially recently. And it can be about like just the trip, going with my friends or my brother or my dad or something like that. Element. Yeah, that's kind of what's part of it as well. So
regarding the previous comment on Austin squad number next year, Woody has suggested it's the only reason they've released Cal Meadow on the retained list. Now, it would be fair to say that one of the most common free letters in the Fools WhatsApp group at times is LSP. And generally it's, have you heard this bit? Have you heard this bit? Have you heard what they've said here? Have you heard this? And, well, I mean, Rich, starting with you, you must be, you've been doing it a fair while now, and a lot of people like myself, we look at the success you've had and said, if we could even have half of that.
Half of what? Because I'll give it to you.
He's blushing.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. So, that's very kind. Thank you very much. No, I mean, the benefit of LS Pod was really that there was nothing at the time of the Low Strangers going live. The wash bag was dormant for I think over a year, and I think the trust had something with the wash bag was great, and I hope the blog comes back one day, but not the podcast. The podcast can just simmer down and just leave the rest of us to it.
There's plenty of us around,
but like I think we had a couple of years where we managed to establish, and we've stuck around, and it's evolved. It's evolved out of necessity at times. Like I went through like paternity, so I took a step back during that time, and Connor took over. If Connor didn't take over for a whole season, the podcast would have just gone, went away, and maybe I would have come back. Probably unlikely with a child. So it's not about, to sound like Clem or Fooney, it's not about me.
It's the team.
It's about the squad, and like JR has to cover me at short notice every now and again because my internet or my computer is playing up, and I go on holiday and stuff. So to put out 2 episodes a week so consistently is down to the people that are regularly just saying, yeah, I'll do it, Rich, late notice, especially with Swindon when things just happen. And we've got on it very, very
emergency
quickly.
Pod recording.
Exactly. The emergency pod is something that's happened quite regularly over the years. And it's been fun. And I do miss doing the ex-player episodes. And a few of them are lined up ready and recorded. Michael Timlin's done an episode. Jimmy Glass has done an episode.
Nice.
Kasali Yinka Cassell has done an episode.
Yes.
So he's done one too. So, that's for the summer. Which is good, and I've got 3 or 4 more lined up just to keep people occupied and to give the team a bit of a rest as well. So I pick up the slack in the summer, so people
it's cricket season now, Rich.
Cricket season. People like the sunshine when it comes out. People like to spend time with their families, weirdly, and so forth. So we've got plenty going through the summer, and then pre-season comes in, and we'll talk about signings and so forth. So if I could quit tomorrow, and I know Low Strangers will continue because of the people that work on it, which is an amazing thing, and I'm tremendously grateful. And I too can only pay with gratitude. So we're on the same page on that one.
It's a huge commodity in content creation, that's for sure. From your perspective, Rich, is there anything that you guys, or any particular highlights from episodes or an episode? I mean, you've already seen people commenting. Our WhatsApp group went off on the season review episode the other day. Is there anything from this season that you're particularly proud of or highlights?
Yeah, that we've kept it going at times. It's felt like quite the test. I think historically this will go down as a something of nothing season. You know, a lot of drama in the interim with Sandra Di Michele and managerial changes, which is par for the course in football. But I think when we look back in 10 years, I generally think this will be seen as just what a nothing season that was. And then we can go from there. We would rather, like every other Swindon fan, as Vic is implied, we'd much rather just be a very happy, successful football club where things are going well.
Yeah.
The one thing that we have, not on our side, but we are able, because we are independent, we are free to sort of speak our minds a little bit more. Not saying that nobody else does, because that's absolutely not true. But we can probably go in a little bit harder at times, which we don't like doing. And I will tell you now, anything that we do discuss, we do our research and we do our fact checking behind the scenes first. So we don't, anything that we do say that isn't 100% accurate is not something that's intentional. And we don't just throw stuff out there just to stir the pot and
allegedly
for the sake of allegedly, exactly. And I would much rather have an hour and 3/4 end of season pod where we're just talking about goals and moments where we are just jubilant and picking up trophies. We've had a couple of those, good seasons with Fellas Pod, and we've had 2 absolute stinkers. And with the tail end of the pandemic year, with the club in serious danger, I don't think anything will compare to that podcast. And when you're getting staff reaching out to you saying, I've not been paid, have you heard anything from your side?
Yeah.
It just got a little bit crazy. And I don't think anything will ever reach that level. So this year it's been rubbish, but it's not hit the levels of 2021, which is really, really, really good.
No. Well, Joe, let me come to you next, if I can then. One of the most popular panelists in terms of the things you say, how you come across, but also as, the feeling that you're representing a fan base, not afraid to say when you think something doesn't sit right. Sometimes, I don't know if it's the same for you, but people assume you're almost, although everything we all do is genuinely authentic, people assume people are playing characters. Oh, you're always the negative one. You're always the happy clap. You're always this one. You're always that one. It's not the case, is it? It's whether it's LSP, whether it's OSC, FRI, 2OD, as I'm abbreviating everybody. Everyone's always speaking their minds as they genuinely believe it, aren't they?
Yeah, did you mean me? I thought you meant this is an intro for Dan. I didn't think.
No. I didn't use the word rant. Otherwise, it would be for Dan.
The thing that threw me, I missed the bit of the name, and that you said one of the popular ones, and I automatically.
Yeah,
God, he's so humble. He's so humble.
Too humble.
Never heard such.
So, was that a roundabout way of saying that I'm the negative one on the pod?
No, not at all. It's a way of saying you're authentic.
Yeah, I think so. I mean. We get sometimes references to the infamous, and not maybe as exciting as it seems in the pod, the LS Pod WhatsApp chat. And I think it'd be fair to say, maybe Dan and Richard ago, I think I'm probably a bit of a pearl clutcher, and I do kind of overreact to a lot of silly things and take them personally. Johnny's on his way out, and that's rattled me enough today. So, but yeah, they are authentic things. I mean, I've listened to Low Strangers from episode 1 where you didn't have the match roundups and you just had Rich trying to speak to Ben Wills, who sounded like he was down a bath plug, and just doing like a quick 30 minutes about that month in one condensed bit.
It was the Phil Brown era. Come on, give me a break.
But yeah, there was a gap, and there was a gap, like you say, of having available content. And I think it's fair to say, everyone who's watching on here and listening, can we all agree that everyone's bloody spoiled, really, in terms of content they get? I mean, there's even content providers who aren't here who create hours of content as well.
100%.
And you get it all for free.
Yeah. Every single STFC content creator deserves a recognition through the good and bad times, that's for sure. But before I hand it over to Dan, Joe, is that from your perspective? Is there anything, whether it's something you've done or someone that you've been either listened to or been on a show with, that you've been like, yeah, that's class content right there?
Probably the biggest class content thing was my second episode where I was absolutely bricking it, which was this one where people weren't paid their wages, and I think that everyone else was so incensed that they couldn't do it. And I was on holiday in West Wales, and Rich managed to persuade me and flatter and say, "Oh yeah, that fixture preview that hardly anyone listened to, that went great. Why don't you come and do this one?" And it was nerve-wracking, awful, and a horrible thing to talk about, but I think it did like crazy numbers, because of course this was a bit like whistleblowing. This was breaking the news, so it was very nerve-wracking to be a part of. And some of the, I know Dan does these sorts of things that kind of extra LSP, JR and Wish, very nice, thank you. So a little outside things that you get to do. I'm sure you asked Dan a bit more about his kind of things, but getting to go on Ghanaian telly and talk about Jojo Woolacott, I don't think I can really top that. That was quite extraordinary.
That's very unique.
Talk Sport 2 with Paul Ross, JR, surely.
Twice as well, yes. That was live from my son's nursery at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I think I'm going live to Accra. And I've tried to take a leaf out of like Chris and Vic and Alex and Kev's book, and I've hung, a shirt over the door handle in my son's nursery, and just thinking, like, how did I wind up here?
It's amazing when you get to hear the individual stories, and like you say, those references there are quite niche and unique, but it's an experience that you certainly won't forget in a hurry. That's for sure. Dan, let's bring you in at this stage. Again, another popular one amongst the fan base whenever you appear on anyone's shows for your insights. Do you feel that sort of pressure to represent the fan base in the way you do? Or are you just like, this is what I think and I'm going to say it?
Well, first things first, and all my friends and family will tell you this, I am such a Swindon Town bore. I love talking about sport. I love talking about Swindon Town. And the reason I love talking about it is because I'm so bloody proud to be a Swindonian. I'm so proud to be a Swindon fan. I just want Swindon Town to be the best club that they can be. So that is where my energy comes from when I get passionate about these things. I'm really proud to be associated with Rich and the guys on the Low Strangers podcast. I, like many others, was listening from episode 1. And so, yeah, the chance to come on and just, say what I've seen, really, it's a privilege. It's not a chore. No. Before we came on tonight, me and Rich, I've just recorded our retained list episode. Poor Mrs. Hunt. She's got a Friday night without me tonight.
Don't say that, Dan. Dan, I'm editing that at the moment as we speak.
Oh, are you? Okay, sorry. But no, I suppose where I come from, I've got a background of being involved with the Supporters Trust Board. I've seen how dark things got in those latter days of the Lee Power reign. I was doing everything in my power at the time to make sure, we could depose that horrible rotter. Let's choose my words carefully. And so, yeah, my passion is just a love of Swindon and a love of talking about football. It's something all around the world, all around the UK. It's one of the first things, one of the first icebreakers, isn't it? Where you're from, who do you support?
Yeah.
And then that shared love of the beautiful game. That's what I want to talk about, and that's why I like watching the rest of the people on this panel talk as well.
No, 100%. And same question for you before I hand it over to Kev. Has there been anything that you've been part of, whether it's this season or whether you've heard someone else do it and you thought, yeah, they've really hit the nail on the head there? It doesn't even have to be like production wise. It's just you've heard someone say something and you're like, know what, they're really sort of capturing the moment at that point.
Well, personal point of view, post Hartlepool, I really went off the long run, and Rich will tell you, like, what the things I say aren't by accident. Like there's prep that goes into these rants. And Rich cut me off before I was even finished. So I could have gone on for another 15 or 20 minutes. Such has been Swindon Town Football Club this year. But the thing that's given me the most pleasure, apologies, Rich and JR, it's been something non-Low Strangers pod related. And that was working with Andrew Hawes recently on the look back at the 1962-63 promotion, Burst Babes. And that is a very personal one for me and the Hunt family. My second cousin is Ernie Hunt, and I think sometimes when I tell people that, they think I'm joking. It's just like, but no, he's my second cousin, and yeah, the opportunity to go along and speak with John Trollope in John's kitchen. It's a very lovely kitchen. He's very proud of his son and his achievements in the game.
What about his kitchen? Is he proud of his kitchen?
What a dishwasher. But no, just the opportunity to go along and speak to John Trollope and pick his brain and hear stories about Ernie, who, what a character he sounded. Some of the bits off mic, probably better than some of the bits on mic. But yeah, that was really lovely. I'm really keen to see Swindon's history encapsulated. And, with it being the 60th anniversary, I mean, it's horrible to think, but, these people aren't going to be around forever. So that opportunity to get all that information, all those memories out of their head, and Andrew Hawes does the tricky bit, turning that into a podcast. But that was a real pleasure. I was able to get my quite shy and retiring dad and my less shy and retiring uncle involved on one of the episodes as well. Memories of knocking around Rodbourne with Ernie, and yeah, it's just really lovely. That's where my roots are. Swindon born and bred.
100%, and it's infectious. You feel it whether you're listening to it, or in this case, I'm watching on a screen. It's all there, and you can feel it with it, no matter what the subject matter is you're talking about. Just before I say hi to Kevin, sort of ask him the same questions content-wise. Thank you to Tom, who sent me a GIF of a well-known Avengers scene as the camera pans around all the characters from Hulk to Captain America, Iron Man, Thor and co. Really appreciate it. Again, I'll let tonight's panel decide which superhero they want to be. Kev, for you, again, putting the miles in all season and recording your trips here, home and away. Has there been any standout highlights for you in terms of the stuff you've made this year?
Kev, are you on mute?
What's the words?
There we go. Oh, no, Kev, you still... There's no mic, Kev. Oh, it was all good. Again, it wouldn't be an episode of FRI without someone's tech not working properly, that's for sure. Are you back with us, Kev?
While we're waiting for Kev, can I ask Alex a question?
Please.
Of course, yeah.
Alex, I find I'm fascinated by vlogging. I could never do it, but I watch it. Like, it's just like, how do you do it? How do you make your football day so driven by sort of like, oh, we've just done something, I've got to record. I mean, I struggle to get my phone out when the game is on, let alone being able to go, it's 3-0, something's happened. Don't know who scored.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, to be fair. Like, it's kind of formulaic how I do it. Like, I'll just be I'll have my phone ready, and then if we get near the goal, which hasn't happened a lot this year, but if they get near our goal, I start recording and clip it down. And then usually after we score, you've got to kind of flip the camera and quickly record yourself. It's a very tricky part of it, doing the recording. It's easier doing the stuff when you're outside the ground before and after, because you can just find somewhere and I'll just ask Joe a few questions on the camera or something like that. But it is a challenge for sure.
How was the Port Vale aftermath last year?
It was unlike anything else. Like a lot, because it's coming up to like a year anniversary of that game. Obviously, a lot of Port Vale fans have been kind of giving me notifications in the past week because they're revisiting the video. and they're saying like, oh, I got a message today saying like, oh, Harry McCurdy's balls just come down in my garden and stuff like that, and so I was actually giving it a watch yesterday, and I was thinking like, it's just, yeah, it was an incredibly emotional game because of like the roller coaster of it all, wasn't it? Because we thought we were going to win. I was certain we were going to win when we had 2 penalties left, and it was Harry McCurdy and who loves a moment like that, and Josh Davison, who was the penalty taker, and I just couldn't believe it. It was really hard to find the words at the end of the game, but then sometimes the lack of words says it all, doesn't it? So yeah,
absolutely. There we go. I hijacked your episode, so apologies.
I was fully hoping and expecting, with this amount of hosting talent available, that there would come a point where you would all just fight over asking the questions, and I just sit in the corner quietly for an hour anyway. Kev's looks like he's still having some difficult technical problems there. I mean, okay, I'll flash it up. There we go. If any of the LS chaps want to take this one,
yeah, should I take that one? Do you know what? In real life, Terry is one of the big good vibes guys that you will ever meet. He just loves being at the football. He loves the build up to games. He loves the conversation in the pub pre-game. But Terry cannot stand nonsense, and if he feels that anything is nonsense, he will call it out. So is he as miserable in real life? Absolutely not. But do I bring him on when there's nonsense? Absolutely, I do. So maybe I should bring him on when there's good vibes from time to time. But that's on me. That's my fault, because if anything is looking grisly, I'll get Terry on.
Kev, is everything working? Are you with us now? I can see the mic's definitely muted at the moment. Oh, he's having real problems with this, isn't he?
Come on, Kev.
JR's good with accents, so if he can just,
put on pressure.
Follow-up comment: for what it's worth, he talks a lot of sense. While we wait for Kev to try and fix it, and we do hope that we can get his viewpoint shortly. I'm afraid I am going to ask you all a few questions about the actual stuff on and off the pitch this season. Do we have just a few? We do. This is what the people really wanted to know.
We're enjoying ourselves.
Let's start with the easy one. How happy were we all at full time of Crawley when the season was over?
Can I start? Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted. Yeah, I just, you look back over the years, don't you? And there are certain seasons when you think, yeah, let's put that one in the bin. This is one you put in the bin, quite frankly. And it was an awful season with many games. When we go on the supporters bus on the away games, you'd sort of try to think, have we played this lot at home? And normally you could reel off the scores, you've got the goals, all that kind of stuff. But this season, we've all been going, I can't honestly remember. And it's been one of those seasons, hasn't it? And if you think of the highlights, you can count them on one hand, really. Probably Mansfield away.
Mansfield, yeah.
Yeah. Bradford City, second half away. That was a really good performance. But you're struggling after that to really think of too many. Grimsby, obviously, at home. And, Doncaster away, Grimsby away. But really, they're few and far between. And you just think this is a season that tests a supporter, because you love a club, you want to see them do well, and you have to go through seasons like this, unless you're Manchester City, for goodness sake, who play football at the minute, which is off some sort of planet in the solar system. But, you watch this season and you think, right, can we just forget that, put it to one side, and then hopefully move on to better times next season? Because there are very few that I can remember like this one, where it's been so depressing, so disappointing, and so forgettable. I think that's the word, just forgettable. And, you're talking of highlights like the decent fans nosh at Leighton Orient, Stockport's really good food there, and that's the sort of thing you'll remember, nothing else. That Stockport Cup defeat coming a week after Mansfield was like the highest and the lowest in the space of 7 days. Incredibly that summed up the season for me.
I'm not sure who of you were possibly there, but Jake is still tuning in. Thank you, Jake. And he's asked, what's Salford away like? And when we did our review episode on Monday, I sat there as we were going through the results, and I went, Salford away, is that the game we won 2-1, having only had one shot on target?
Yeah.
Salford away is brilliant. We always win.
Yeah, Jake Wakelin scored that fabulous goal, didn't he? That flick.
Yeah.
Sort of Scorpion-esque flick volley.
Yeah, it's a horrible place. I hate it.
There you go, Jake. Vic hates it. Going back to the very beginning, Chris, it seemed a lot of Swindon fans, I don't know if you found the same, there wasn't sort of a strong feeling either way as to what sort of season we were going to have. Obviously, there was Garner gone, Lindsay come in, the players were cut, like there was no players coming in, then all of a sudden all the players were coming in. Pre-season was sort of hit and miss. And I mean, even on ours alone, we had, I think maybe 7 or 8 of our panelists on the season preview show, and we were predicting anywhere between a 3rd and 18th place finish. We just couldn't decide between us what was going to happen.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, maybe not everybody else, is that the season previous we had overachieved. It wasn't expected. So it was a kind of, right, okay, are we going to replicate this, or is it going to be we're going to go straight up, or we could be going straight down the league? You didn't know. It was all very up in the air. Scott Lindsay coming in took so long for that to happen. And everybody's sort of thinking, oh, is this the right thing? Isn't it the right thing? Fair play to him. It wasn't his fault that it didn't work out, I don't think. He just was pushed into a situation that was not for him. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think I am a glass half full. I just want everything to be perfect.
I would consider myself largely much the same. I've always been quite positive, but I found myself over the course of this season, while trying to be positive, somehow becoming very cynical of things. And I think one of the things you said there was Lindsay coming in, it took so long. That seems to be the case with just about anything Swindon Town related this year. Just took so long.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, going on what Chris was saying, and she's absolutely right. Now, if this season had been the season before last season, and last season had been this season,
yeah, a few people have said this.
You know, it would be, we would have expected this season to have been last season. That and anything above the relegation places, we'd have been delighted with, wouldn't we? Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. But what happened last season with the, dare I mention it, Port Vale playoffs and stuff, that did heighten everybody's expectations. And Scott Lindsay came in, and I asked him the question, what are you expecting from this season? And he said promotion. And that's what they wanted. They wanted promotion, but, you know, I don't know what promotion to, but not League One. It's as simple as that.
It was just very disruptive, wasn't it, at the beginning? We just didn't know. And I think that's where the expectations, some were high, some were low. And you just actually will think, well, okay, what is it going to be?
Alex, without, being over, well, I mean, you can be if you want to be, but without being overly critical, that there's been debate online and amongst, particularly amongst our panels and stuff, whether the playing staff were good enough to achieve what some of us were hoping we could achieve this year. We're all kind of aware of the chaos and carnage at times behind the scenes of what's been going on, and that's largely been given the blame for the season we've ultimately had. What when you look at the playing squad over the course of the season, did you at any point look at that and think, that is a promotion chasing squad?
I had to admit, like, for a long time, I wasn't really against the players. I thought under Scott Lindsay, we were capable of more than what we were showing, and what we were showing was just enough to be around the playoffs. And I know this obviously turned out to be wrong. We know what happened with the season, but going into the start of the season, before we seen any of them really play, I was thinking, yes, we've lost a number of key players, but we've brought in some players that look like they can do a job. I was really hopeful about Tomi Adeloye, but obviously that didn't come off. I thought that's a player who's just gone and scored double figures in the Scottish League. He fits the physical profile of what we had with Tyrese Simpson and Josh Davison. So that's maybe a good replacement. You've got promising players like, Romeo Hutton, who's coming to the team. And Saidu Khan as well looked like a great signing. Chesterfield fans were saying really great things about him. And when Scott Lindsay was putting out a team that was just really boring to watch, I was thinking we're capable of more than this. And when he eventually got sacked, I was thinking, well, he didn't get sacked, he left, but he was going to get sacked. I put a video out saying that, we probably should have sacked him anyway. I was thinking, great, this is an opportunity for us to really turbocharge our season. We bring in Charlie Austin, and I fully got swept away with the Charlie Austin hype and thought, right, we've added a striker, a proper striker that no one else at this level would ever get to a team that's bobbing around 7th in the table. Let's go and get promoted. Like, why not? But then obviously what went and happened is McDonald left and Reed left and Gladwin left. And you're, especially the Gladwin sale made me think, wait, hold on a second, like they must have something up their sleeve here, right? Because that doesn't seem like the type of thing you do if you want to go and get promoted. But I was still hopeful. I thought on paper the appointment of Morris makes a lot of sense, and because of obviously his background at Chelsea, he's an elite coach. He does what we were told that is the model, so it seems like a good idea. But obviously he should have known in the interview, surely, listening to that man, that he wasn't going to inspire a lot of confidence in the players or the fans, and that's how it went. And it fell off a cliff. I think it kind of snowballed, really.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, obviously. I mean, I know from my personal perspective, and a lot of the guys on Fools, we were quite excited as well when Morris was appointed. But as you say, it didn't. It's just almost nothing this season has gone to plan, has it? Let's be fair. I was going to try and keep it positive as possible early doors, but as people are throwing their low lights of the season out there, I flashed them up already, but Peter's gone in already saying that Gillingham and Colchester away, both absolute torture.
Oh, was it both?
Was it Ben's comment here? Cole United away was probably the worst I've seen Swindon play in a Football League fixture in the 30 years I've watched them live. Has it really been that bad, or are we sort of emphasising how bad it's been?
Can I throw in another one? Crawley away. That was pretty 100%. Shocking. Yeah, that was awful. Yeah. Really, really awful. And actually, ironically, with that Colchester game, for the first 20 minutes, we were all over them. Just couldn't score. And then for some reason, we never bothered to get the ball over the halfway line, it seemed to me. But what a great way to start a brand new year, wasn't it? Not.
Gary's picked on my favourite topic over the course of this season, buzzing for when we discuss the cup runs or lack of. I was one of the lucky few to see a cup game at Walsall away. That's about as lucky as it got, I think, in terms of cup runs.
No, I was at Chippenham away, 3-1. Adeloy scored 2. Thank you very much. I saw it. I was there. Gonna get a T-shirt made.
What do we think about the cup endeavours this season? Do we think they've intentionally been thrown to focus on the league, or go on, Dan?
No, this is something I'm very passionate about.
Let me get comfortable.
That League Cup 11 we named at Walsall in August was a disgrace. It was a disgrace. The contrast from 4 months earlier, where we took nearly 4,000 fans to Walsall and had a really likeable, really good team, and we battered Walsall 3-0. Barely got out of second or third gear. And the contrast to that August night at Walsall, 6:45 p.m. when you saw the side named, I thought, what's the point? Are our players so fatigued from pre-season that we had to make, 9 changes?
Was that not part of the pre-season plan, I remember, though, was to play everybody fatigued?
Yes, that's another thing we can talk about. But no, to throw a proper cup competition, a cup competition that we've won, a cup competition where you're only a game away from playing a real big fish, which can have great benefits to your kind of ongoing budget, and you're in cups for glory, right?
Yeah.
However unlikely it may be that we win it, you know, Bradford City got to a final about 12, 13 years ago whilst in League Two. You know, no, it typified the approach from top down at the club all season.
I think the one thing you need to know,
to throw a game like that.
If you look at the statistics, we played 51 games this season, the lowest amount of games you can possibly play in a season.
Yeah.
3 Pizza Cup matches, which I'm one of these rare people who think you should actually try and win that thing because you can make money out of it in the latter stages.
I agree.
So 51 games. And if you contrast, we lost all 5 cup ties. And if you contrast to 2011, 2012, I think we played 12 cup ties. There's a difference, isn't it? I mean, just the lowest number of games you can possibly play in a season.
Not only that, I think that is, am I right, that is the only episode that we didn't do because yourself and JB were just too incensed to do it. And we couldn't see it because it wasn't available on iFollow. So
it was exactly the same.
When Swindon didn't want to do the tie, why should we? Like,
yeah, it was exactly the same here. I had my camera and everything. I was at the Bescott, and I was just like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to bother with this. I'm just going to, just go home.
Yeah, and context is so important. We'd had a bumpy pre-season. A lot of the recruitment was late. Mm-hmm. All this fatigue business. We've just been stuffed at Harrogate. You know, when I was growing up, Harrogate Railway was just a laugh in an FA Cup draw. And then along came Harrogate Town. He wasn't even the biggest Harrogate when I was growing up. We lost 3-0 there. And so to take that fixture so unseriously, God, talk about a tone setter for the season. That really, really rankled with me. FA Cup, thank God I didn't travel to Stockport. Sorry for everyone that did. And, pizza trophy games. I took my little lad along. He liked floodlights and it being dark and it was all exciting. So at least there was that. And but no, what a bizarre attitude to something that can make you money. And it's still a first team game where your players can learn how to play together.
Yes.
Win, gain confidence.
We'd already said this, but it's so strange considering, that at the beginning of the year that we had that big third round draw that was on the telly that everybody was watching, and just think you want to just
35 quid, please. Yeah.
And in the League Cup, you're only 1 round away from a Premier League team, so it's very odd.
So no, it's not the biggest issue in our season, but if you wanted something that typified
mood setter,
I don't know, is it arrogance? No, I don't need the cups. Whatever.
Well, we're getting promoted, so I don't need them.
Sorry, I'll shut up.
No, not at all. There were a number of moments that resembled the good, the bad, and the ugly of Swindon Town over the course of the campaign. Some that spring to mind was the referee getting knocked out at Grimsby. I think Vic said earlier, smashing Mansfield and then getting smashed by Mansfield. Obviously, you were just talking about the cup game there. The game just a couple of days before that, if I remember the dates correctly, was the 0-0 draw with Salford, where Harry McCurdy got sent off. And that seems like a lifetime ago now.
Yeah, a lot of it seems like a lifetime ago. I mean, it just, you could reel off all these games and you just go, what happened in that one? Leighton Orient at home was a decent performance, actually, if you remember. I think it was a Tuesday night, wasn't it? It was a cracking game of football. And we played really well in that and got a good point out because I think they'd won every game up until then, hadn't they, Leighton Orient?
I think we were something like the only team in the first 10 or 15 league games to take any points off of them.
Yeah, we were. And games like that, you thought, well, hang on a minute. Yeah, maybe there's something there. And then you get wins at Grimsby and Doncaster, or Doncaster and Grimsby, whichever way around it was. And then you suddenly think, yeah, okay. Then you go to Mansfield, you win 5-2, play brilliantly, really, really good football. And then a week later, the cup curse strikes and you get stuffed 4-0. And then somehow it just seemed to go downhill from there.
I think and a lot of you are a lot more knowledgeable on the stats than I am. I think it was something ridiculous, like we only won 1 or 2 games between Mansfield and January when the transfer window opened. It was It was an unbelievable run of form after that win, which followed, obviously, again, as you said earlier, Vic, the draw at Bradford, which was a very good second half performance as well. And you were just starting to think, the momentum's starting to build a little bit. And then it just completely evaporated very, very quickly. This won't cause a debate in our WhatsApp group, but I am interested to know the views of people who I don't hear from every day of the week on one particular topic. If we can go right back to the beginning of the season, we had an unbeaten run at the beginning of, I think it was 9 games. 5 of them were draws. And there was a long-standing joking debate amongst our WhatsApp group as to whether 5 draws in 9 represents good form or not. What were you all thinking, if you can recall, at the time? Were you feeling encouraged with all this run of draws, or?
Just don't forget Harrogate doesn't count because that was in July, so it was pre-season.
September, everything before September is cricket, as far as I'm concerned. So,
3 draws
before September is cricket.
Yeah.
But I am intrigued to know that there was that unbeaten run, and admittedly they weren't all wins. But were you at this point thinking it's early season, but we're showing signs, we're difficult to beat, we are winning games after that first couple of games where it wasn't quite right? Or were you kind of waiting for it to turn?
It was hugely concerning, I thought. I thought it was hugely concerning at the start because it wasn't just purely the results. It was how we were playing and the tactics, because it looked over the summer that for some reason they decided to scrap a 4-3-3 system, which was insanely entertaining to watch and successful at the end of the season. And they were building for a 3-5-2. And then they started using a 3-5-2 and it's like the players had never even trained in a 3-5-2 before. And then they tried to switch to a 4-3-3. And lo and behold, we don't have any wingers because we spent the summer building a 3-5-2. And it's like, we can't do that one either. And they were a bit stuffed. And you go and look at Coventry and stuff this season in the Championship. The start of the season doesn't actually matter too much. It's about kind of working your team out and then building up momentum later in the season. Middlesbrough as well, another team in the Championship who started really, really badly and then ended up having a fantastic season. But it was really concerning that it felt like they'd wasted the entire summer and they were trying to learn during the season. Like the Walsall game we discussed in the Cup felt like a pre-season game, didn't it? It was ridiculous. And they were doing it at a really worrying time. So I was concerned for sure.
No, absolutely. We mentioned some of the results around the turn of the year. Again, it preceded what seemingly was a reasonably good performance and definitely a good result when we beat Northampton between Christmas and New Year, and you were hoping with the window starting to open again, things would turn around. Of course, we know it didn't, but I suppose that the big shining light at that point was the return of Charlie Austin, and I imagine everyone here was. I know, Alex, you already kind of said in your bit earlier, but imagine when Charlie came back, everyone was buzzing and thinking this really could be a turning point here, or could anyone even at this point start to see that maybe it was a shining light in amongst a lot of darkness on the other side? Was anyone kind of particularly, obviously, really enthused or still quite concerned by what else was going on?
Well, there was a couple of weeks before that, was there? Sorry, there was a few weeks before that where I think, Dan, you watched his last Brisbane game and you were live tweeting on the WhatsApp chat about how that was going, and it didn't really kind of fill me with great joy to hear your report on how that was going. Definitely seems like it would be, a shot in the arm for fans. It'd be great to have Austin back, but did wonder about how that move went and whether he would come back ready to fire in League Two. I was quite cynical. I had a bet with Connor about a cheese board that Luke Jeffcott would score more goals than Charlie Austin, so I own Connor a cheese board, only by a small margin, but that's that. But yeah, I did wonder whether the fantasy would live up to the reality, and I have to say that it probably did look a lot better than I anticipated. Certainly at the start, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
On a similar note,
foul though, wasn't it? Because obviously the 4 goals at Rochdale, there's a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And the way Morris tried to use him, didn't help Charlie. I don't think.
No.
I think the challenge for Flynn will be, create a system where Charlie doesn't have to run, and he can stay in that width for the 18-yard box. Because if the chances come, he's still going to stick him in the back of the net. But yeah, you need the other 10 guys to do the running. I think that's the key.
You mentioned Rochdale. I mean, it was 4-4 draw, and on the face of it, it's a fabulous game of football, but actually it wasn't. And Rochdale were very poor, and we should have won that comfortably. And I think Charlie said afterwards he should have got 5. I mean, look, it's sad for Rochdale, and I feel for their fans. They've gone down.
100%.
It's the sort of game, if you're thinking of anything remotely like the playoffs, you've got to go and win. And defensively, we were shocking that day, and it wasn't a good game of football, even though the scoreline suggested it was a great game. It just wasn't,
I actually think, because unfortunately I wasn't at that one, but I think when I first logged back into Twitter to see the reaction, because a lot of people message me and say if Swindon get a bad result, they'll leave Twitter for 24 hours and just not look because they know what's coming on. I actually sadistically quite enjoy it. I quite like seeing just how much we can melt down over certain things. And I think it was your tweet was the first I saw of it, where it said something along the lines of, that's the most boring 4-4 draw you're ever going to see. And I was like, well, that tells me everything I need to know about this game, really.
Yeah, I mean, they could have won. I mean, I think it's fair to say, I think Rochdale could have won that game, and you would have thought, a striker of yours scores 4 goals away in away games, and you could have lost the game. That says it all about that match, really, for me. Nice chip shot, though. Good chip shot.
Was there any other away grounds that you really want to shout out the food offering that you got to try?
Stockport, Leighton Orient, Grimsby, good chip shot. Crew, very good chip shot. Yeah. Yeah, that's it, really. I did loads of them, but I'm looking forward to going to Forest Green next season, vegetarian-wise. Great. Thanks very much.
On the flip side, some of our panelists had quite a negative food experience at Wimbledon. Did anyone else have any other grounds where they had a particularly poor gone down?
Did they not do basmati sandwiches at Wimbledon then?
No, they didn't do basmati and basmati ketchup sandwiches. No, mate, no. Apparently that wasn't on the menu.
I just want to shout out to Sutton United away, where I went into a pub, very nice pub. The pints were fairly cheap for London, but I asked for some hot wings and didn't really look at the menu, and so out came the Carolina Reaper wings with the 5 flames. And Neil Hussey, hi Neil, was sat opposite me, and bless him, he was just passing me tissue after tissue, eyes and nose streaming. I was struggling through these Carolina Reaper wings, and that's as good as that night got.
Well, on the flip side, in terms of food, I got stuck in a turnstile at Orient, so I'm going to probably just tone down food at away games going forward. I think not a great moment for my morale, I must say.
Oh yeah.
Vic, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago about defensively, particularly at Rochdale, but I know we always say for fans in the stands, it's really easy. We can see everything and we clearly know better than the majority of people. But for the most part, particularly in the second half of the season, defensively in general, we just didn't seem to sort of know how to do it, really.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think I thought Tom Brewitt made a big difference when he came in, actually, because he's a head 'em, kick 'em, clear it sort of player, which you kind of need to lead to. But we want a couple of big lumps at the back, don't you? Just get the ball away, and I don't mind if we have a season of completely ugly football as long as we get up and look at
the division.
Look at Stevenage. Much as I hate to say about Steve Evans' team, he knows how to put a promotion team together in League Two, doesn't he? And when teams game manage or waste time at the end, I'm kind of all for that in a way, because if you're 1-0 up away from home, don't give the game away. Don't just protect the lead. 10 minutes from the end, do whatever it takes to get those 3 points. That's what I want to see next season. A bit of ugliness. Come on, I don't want pretty football all the time. Just bit of ugliness, get the 3 points. Thanks very much. We'll leave town. Lovely.
Well, on that note, then, With the appointment of Flynn, and I'll ask you all this question, but Vic, I'll start with you on the point. Is that what you're expecting him to bring in and install?
It's interesting. I think with Mike Flynn, he's got this reputation for playing long ball football, but we had him on the other week, and he seems a very nice chap indeed. And he was saying about Newport, their reputation was playing long ball football, but he brought up the subject of the pitch at Newport. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't play football on that, could you? It was a paddy field, basically. So when they got the pitch sorted out, Newport started to play football. So I think he's a manager who likes a bit of both. He doesn't mind the ugly side of the game. He doesn't mind the partying side of the game. So I think we're going to get a mixture, which is, kind of what most fans want. The ability to play both styles of football, if you like. I don't care about long ball football. It's great, at times. We scored a fabulous long ball game with Josh Davison, a goal last season with Josh Davison, if you remember. Yeah. He was alongside the keeper. Keeper cleared the ball upfield, bang in the back of the net. Fabulous. So a mixture, great as far as I'm concerned. If we see that all season and we get out of League Two, all for it.
Chris, how positive are you with the appointment?
Yeah, he talks a good talk. We'll see how it goes, but I think he's used to the division. I think this is where Jody didn't know. He wanted to play flair football and everything like this, which just wasn't the right thing to do. And I'm optimistic. As Vic said, Tom Brewitt, I do like. I think he's a good, steady defender who will get in there and fight for it. When Jody was there, I think the defence didn't know what was expected of them. And I know they're professionals, they should be knowing and doing themselves. But if you're told by the manager to play a certain way, then that's what you do. And I think they were just out of sorts. They didn't know from one day to the next what they were supposed to be doing. So we'll see.
Okay. Alex?
Well, speaking to a Walsall fan at length about Michael Flynn, how he likes to play football, it did concern me a lot. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of split, isn't it? Because in the first half of the season, when they had Danny Johnson on loan from Mansfield Town, it was brilliant and it worked. And that makes me think, can Charlie Austin be our Danny Johnson? Because clearly they create chances, they get ball in the box, and that's, with Charlie Austin, he's going to score goals from that. However, it does really come across from speaking to the Walsall fan that he's a very defence-first kind of manager, and he's going to put 5 at the back and 2 kind of deep-lying midfielders on the pitch. And if it doesn't work, and if it takes us a while to score goals and win games, especially at home, we know what our fans are like at home when we're not playing well and we're being defensive and on the back foot. It could kind of turn against him. I'm always super positive when we're heading into a new season. I want to see the best in our side, not manager. But speaking to the Walsall fan do concern me, I have to say.
Dan?
I'm kind of fairly happy, actually. I think after a season where you had Scott Lindsay massively out of his depth, and then Jody Morris, not, as others have referenced, not a wide enough knowledge of League Two football, very quickly cut the look of a man who didn't want to be here. I think Flynn is a nice bit of steady, and I think on a footballing sense, I think we can call him a pragmatist. Depending on what pitch Newport were playing on, kind of dictated his style. Swindon under Wellens were tripped up at Newport by still trying to play the way we were playing that season. I found ourselves 1-0 down after about 50 seconds, I think, on my birthday weekend. What a fond memory. But no, I think the proof will ultimately be in the pudding. What squad is he going to build this summer? I think the sides he's managed, generally very good in the cups, very well organised, but probably a bit short on goals. The sort of Danny Johnson run earlier this season at Walsall I'm not fully up on my Newport history, but I don't remember them having sort of out and out goal scorers.
Twine.
Well, yeah, he only scored from 40 yards. That's a different kind of goal scorer, isn't it? So no, I think.
How dare he?
Feeling reassured. I think as someone who's going to get their hands on the football side of the club, have much more say in recruitment, has a proven track record with Newport. To reach 2 playoff finals in the 4th tier in Newport is it's a good achievement. I know they didn't go over the line. The cup runs will have been very attractive, I imagine, to our ownership. So, yeah, fingers crossed. I think you're going to get a man here who gives it full beans, which is something you probably couldn't say about Morris, sadly, on reflection.
Before I pass that question over to Joe, just to catch up on a couple of the tweets we've had in. John says, go on Dan Hunt on Fools Rush In, and then sent us a picture of us all on his big screen TV. And we've had a tweet in from S. Parker saying, I didn't expect RPU to look like that from his voice. At Fools Rush In, at those strangers.
Whoa. In a good or bad way?
It's not specified, but I'm going to assume good.
Real good.
I need to know. Actually,
do you want me to reply while we're doing
don't
this?
Answer that. Don't answer that, please, for morale. I'm having a lovely time at the moment. Yes, Daniel.
People used to say about my dad, he looks skinny from behind. And you look like a man who should fit for a football turnstile at Leyton Orient. Is what I
got
say.
my angles all wrong. That was the reality of it. I got my angles all wrong, and then I panicked, and then I got laughed at by the person at the turnstile, and then the old boy steward just kind of gave me that look of, what is wrong with you? You silly man. And it was hard not to agree with that steward at the time. All of this was about 10 seconds long, but I think the delays in getting into the ground for many fans was possibly down to me. It wasn't. Thanks for bringing it back up.
On a fairly similar note, I'm not going to lie, Newport away, the closer I got to the turnstile, the more I was panicking. I thought they were going to have to open the security gate for me.
At Newport away? Is that
not Newport, Northampton, sorry.
Yeah,
got my ends wrong. It's because I was reading this comment about Newport at the same time. Northampton way, the closer I got, the more I was panicking. I was like, this ain't happening, lads.
I got it all wrong.
To be fair, Leyton Orient's turnstiles were built in an age when people generally weren't as big as they are now. Let's put it like that. So I think, we all struggle to get through Leyton Orient's turnstiles.
Thanks, Vic. I think at the end, the last bit really saved it a little bit. I think you're right. You're right. They are 7 foot tall turnstiles. If you don't get your angles right, you're gonna get stuck. I mean, and I learned that the hard way. Get your angles right, everyone.
I've lost where we were on the thread, but Joe, it was your
Can
turn.
I just say to one of the comments, someone said about Talford scoring a lot of goals at Newport. Was that not under James Rowbury?
That was because he halfway through, because he left. He left halfway through that one, didn't he?
The very start of the season.
Wasn't it early doors?
October, wasn't it?
Early doors.
That's why I said he didn't manage an out-and-out scorer. I know about Talford. Yeah, I thought, didn't Rowbury, he did most of that season, didn't he? That's when they started to try and play actual football.
It must have been.
Yeah. I don't want this board to know about James Rowbury, this academy thing, seeing the pictures of him teaching Thierry Henry in his little FAW top. It'll give them ideas. We've got a manager. Let's stick with that one.
Oh, hang on. We need to carry this one on. Apparently, if we're playing the Newport Striker game, did he not have Padraig Amand?
It felt like
he was at Woking at the Woking friendly.
Flynn resigned October, wasn't under him as well.
There we go.
Joe, over to you then. Are you enthused by the appointment of Flynn?
A little bit of skin in the game here, Fyfie, because my family are all Newport people. Again. Getting comfy. My family are all Newport people. In fact, my cousin is a contributor on their pod. So they're all spitting feathers and deeply jealous, which I think gives a good indication. I think there was a lot of talk, as from all the time of following football. My dad used to go to Somerton Park days, and Vic, I remember going there before they'd gone bust. Before your time, Alex, as a young man, but playing like in Morton in the Marsh and all that slow rebuild stuff, and half an eye on them through non-league and climbing up. Didn't ever really think that it was possible. It might be like a bit of a pipe dream, but they did make it up there, and my family were all fully bedded in with Mike Flynn. I think that there was a feeling with because of the infamy of the cup runs and the playoff finals that didn't amount to anything, that maybe he had taken it as far as he could. There was always whispers every time that there was especially like a Cardiff vacancy, that he'd be a shoe-in. There was that time I think they went for Steve Morrison instead, but James Robury ended up going the other way. But always, I think that feeling that he would get snapped up by a top-end League One or lower level Championship side never seemed to really happen, and maybe was spinning his wheels. But maybe what reassures me is that we remember them having the bog pitch and having to do a bit of hit and hope and adapt to what was there. But I think my abiding memory of going to because Newport at home is always a usual fixture. I'd definitely bring my cousin along too, and they've always got more of an eye of a physical side. And the last couple of years, Gardner era, I'm seeing people I'm 5'7", and I'm seeing like midfielders that are around my height or a little bit less, and just kind of get pushed and needled off the park. Let's get Jamil Matt through the door. That's what I'm saying.
Get Carl Hudlin off Huddersfield, the 6'9" monster that AFC Wimbledon had. Just lump it in.
He's a
So
human
Jacob
being.
Bryan is doing. Yeah, let's get him in as well.
We've had a tweet in from Legate84 saying, everyone two-footed on poor old Rich there, with laughing emoji face.
There are people that have wanted to hear and see that for a long time, I assure you. So I'll take the hit on this occasion.
It's the video footage. I think we would quite like to.
There's some summer content for you. Just a two-footed challenge. That's all you need to post for the week.
That's all.
Last but certainly not least, Rich, your thoughts on the Flynn appointment, please.
Yeah, I think it's, again, just like what we were talking about had we had this season, last season, and vice versa. It's all about optics with Flynn, because before the Walsall job, Swindon fans wanted him at Swindon, because of what he did at Newport, and then Walsall didn't go to plan, and his stock went down a little bit. And I think he can consider himself quite lucky to find himself in work so swiftly after the Walsall gig. I think I'm generally happy with it. I think it's a steady Eddie appointment. I think that's generally what's needed at this moment. I think nobody really will look back if this doesn't work out and go, I knew it was going to happen. I think this is one of those ones where it's like I can see the logic behind it. I sort of think back in recent history and wonder if this is a David Flitcroft or a Richie Wellens. I think it could go either way in that respect. But every single head coach, manager that we appoint, I want them to do well. We can have reservations. We can go, I don't like Ben Garner and Richie Wellens. We looked at their recent history and went, well, this is a write-off, isn't it? And they gave us 2 wonderful seasons. So, I always lean towards that element. So he has my full support. Are there bits and pieces that I worry about? Maybe, but I think the summer is going to be a big indicator of what we can expect, who he brings in, because the bulk of the current squad, the contracted players, is fine. If you build around that, we could compete. If we don't, and we bring in, what will look like League Two, plodders, then we'll see what he can do with them. But he did a wonderful job at Newport. He didn't do horrifically at Walsall. But it just seemed to tell. He was manager of the month at the start of last season or this season. Things were going well. He lost his centre forward. It happens. It happens. So I wish him all the best. Everything that he's done so far in terms of his words has been the right one. You know, when he came on the pitch, he said everything right. I kind of was like, well, of course he's going to say that, but the fact that he did it is a tremendous start. He wasn't made to do that. He came on, said all the right things. He's done the rounds. He's saying all the right things. And let's see what he can do. And I really hope it goes well.
Compare and contrast to Jody Morris, of course, who didn't come on the pitch at all, and wouldn't, I think, apart from pre-match and post-match, wouldn't do any media stuff at all. So
I mean, I think if he could have done match days remotely, he would have. You know, I honestly don't know what happened there, but it seemed like he just lost interest very, very quickly. I don't know if it was the Ed Brand situation that just got jaded. It just never worked. But the guy didn't make it easy for himself at all. He didn't get us on his side, which is such an easy thing to do. Get the fans on your side is just from the off isn't hard. He didn't have any interest. I think whether he thought he was too big for the gig or whatever, he just never have I seen a man just look just so like it is, you know, whatever.
Even those sponsorship announcements, he's been front and center for all of those like this week as well. So even just that small detail. And have you already had him on the OS series?
Yeah.
Going to come on?
Yeah. We had him on, well, Chris, you got him on 2 days after he was appointed, I think, didn't you? And he was great. I mean, really, really good. And you know, you talk to a man. I mean, he came across to me as a sort of cross between Lou Macari and Richie Wellens, somebody who connected with. Wants to connect with the fan base. I mean, his assistant comes from Swindon, of course, which is a big plus, isn't it? So, to me, if you've got a manager, Richie Wellens was brilliant at that. You know, he wanted to connect with the fan base, and he did. And I think Mike Flynn is of a similar mind. And he's got the beauty, of course, of not losing a game for 3 months, so that's okay. He's got an extended honeymoon period, but you know, all the signs are that I think he's going to be a good fit, and I wish him well.
I had to pop into the club earlier this week, and talking to the people in there, even on his first date, he knew everybody by their first names. So he had done his homework, and he wants to fit in where maybe that's different to what Jody did, and everything, which is all good signs.
It's a bit easier to learn the names when there's not that many people.
I knew it was coming. Straight away.
That's my boy.
Okay.
If you all, while we're on the subject of managers, if you all wouldn't mind indulging me for a moment, I've had a request for something that I failed to do on Monday's episode. So I've been asked if I can do it with tonight's panel. And the request goes something like this. I waited for the manager ratings of the season, like the player ratings. The what something marks out of 10 rating comments are unintentionally comedy gold. So just very briefly, because we've had a few comments in the chat about Gunning as well, which I've not flashed necessarily all of them up. Obviously, he only had a handful of games, but they were chalk and cheese compared to the rest. In hindsight, would you perhaps rate Lindsay a bit more favourably, knowing what we know with the second half of the season and how it panned out with Morris, or does that just rank him lower for how it turned out? Because when we sort of discussed it on here a couple of weeks ago, I think it was Ben who said he rated Lindsay 6 out of 10 and Morris 5 out of 10 for their contributions to the season.
Well, he's an optimist, isn't he, Ben?
Go on, Rich. What out of 10? For the benefits of H the Duck on Twitter, who wants these ratings out of 10, give me a rating for Lindsay, Morris, and Gunning.
Oh, man. So I think, yet again, I have to remind everyone that Steve Mildenhall was just as, worth a shout out. Gunning was the face, but from everything I hear, Mildenhall did a lot of the grunt work behind the scenes, and he just didn't do the media and didn't do the shouting at the dugout. I think Gunning and Mildenhall were great fun.
Yeah.
But
it wouldn't have been sustainable.
I saw some of that Gillingham game, and it was wonderful chaos. But if that was the tail end of the season, I don't know what would have happened, but it was great fun. And in isolation, those games were some of our most entertaining games of the season. and they deserve a lot of credit. I don't know if 3 games and a Wiltshire Premier Shield win is enough to give a mark out of 10, because it was almost perfect. They only dropped 2 points, so it's very hard. Lindsay is an interesting conversation. I think fans will talk about Scott Lindsay mildly of what if. I honestly think, I still maintain we were spiraling when he was still at the club. I think the playoff position was misleading. We spent maybe too much time dwelling on that instead of just enjoying our lofty position over the season. You know, he will always cite that we were in the playoffs when he left. So why leave? You've just got Charlie Austin. You're in the playoffs. Stay. If they weren't going to sack him because it took so long to replace him. So what happened there, we'll never know. And Morris was just a disaster. He doesn't get 5 out of 10. He has to go lower for everything. We were all pro Jody Morris, but his demeanor, his attitude, his just general approach, was just he talked well in some of the pressers, but he just didn't seem bothered. He blamed the players. It was very, they have lost today, which is never a good sign. So he'd get a 3 out of 10 from me, and Lindsay 5 out of 10, because it's just, I can't give it. That's the neutral, and he could be grateful at that. That's the mid, because he walked. Okay, Crawley put in an offer. We said, yeah, you could go talk to him. But he could have stayed, have some pride, go, no, I'm going to prove these fans wrong. The noise against him wasn't too bad. In the ground anyway. There was Sutton at home when he got a bit of don't know what you're doing. He brought on Jacob Wakeling, and it changed the game. So he got it right. I'm very disappointed with Scott Lindsay in that respect, because regardless of how he'll paint it, and he'll say all things behind the scenes, it was no different to what he would have known before. So he gets 5 from me. And Gunning and Milden, who I can't rate them. They just, because otherwise you've got to give them 8 or 9, because it went so well. They even got a brace from Adderley at Chippenham. Come on, you got Massey scoring. So they did the work, didn't they?
Very well justified ratings of 5 and 3 there for the 2 main managers over the course of the season. Would anyone overly disagree with those ratings come the end of the season?
No.
I might give Scott Lindsay another point because he's a really nice bloke. But I think one thing that I didn't like with Morris was the way he called Adderley out. I just thought, to me, that's not. You've got a player in your team, and you're saying that he, needs to work harder and all this kind of stuff. And to me, Tommy Adderley was all right. He's not the greatest footballer in the world, but you don't do that. You just kind of, what you want to do is you encourage your footballers, not. And I wonder whether that was the moment he might have just completely lost the dressing room. I don't know.
He scored. Yeah, it was a nothing goal. He scored at Newport and then was dropped the next week. Not even in the squad. That's not how you manage players. I'm not an expert, but if you're desperate for your centre forward to score a goal and he scores a goal, the rest is easy.
On that particular singled one, out Harry's as well, didn't he? He singled out Harry's, and I don't think that we were under any illusion he was coming back from a big injury that he was going to get picked. But I think that then that just says your selections say what you think. You don't have to do that to somebody. So, yeah.
I think that's the difference between Morris and we were talking about Gunning. Gunning and Mildy had the respect of the players. The players wanted to play for them. And I think that had a big part of their success in the matches they had. Wanted to do well for them.
Nigel's commented here, remember how boring it was under Lindsay. I would, although that's probably not that heavily disputed, I would also argue, I think it was Andrew Hawes made a comment a couple of games prior to the end of Morris's reign that our, not that I'm a big on XG and things like that, but we were below 1 at one point. It was outrageous.
What about box entries, though? How are we doing on those?
Love the good box entry, indeed. Jamie says, say what you like about Lindsay, but he never looked at social media.
No, he didn't. No.
Who's watching this?
Send him a link.
Legate84 tweets in, Morris' only real plus point was he was really good to my kid when he was a mascot a couple of months back. How many weeks did Ed Brand actually do in the end? I think it was almost as many weeks as it took to sign him in the end. I think it was about level. I'm conscious of taking up too much of your Friday evenings, but there is one more thing I would like to ask. And obviously, we had the news today that Charlie Austin was staying, as we mentioned earlier, and the much sought after retained list was announced. So while I've got everybody here, it'd be good. I'll just flash it up on the screen in case anyone hasn't seen it. Vic, I'll start with you.
Ellis? Where's Ellis?
Ellis is there.
Yeah, where
Is
is
he
it?
there?
Yeah, bottom line next to
Bottom line.
Hutton.
Where's Jack Copland?
That's what I was going to ask. That he's missing altogether, and I thought I'd missed something.
Free
about
Jack
him.
Copland. Bring him back. Best goalie we ever had.
Starting with you, Vic, any perhaps surprise names being retained in your opinion?
Not particularly. No. I mean, a lot of them are on 2-year contracts, I think, aren't they? So that isn't. They're not retained as such. They're kind of on contract anyway. The released players, I wasn't surprised about really. Johnny Williams, I think, was always going to leave. So I think they've just made it easier for him, haven't they, by not making him an offer for a new contract. So I think that's to be explained. And they've given options, I think, on Brewitt and Hepburn Murphy.
And
McEachran. Obviously, he's been one of the... Actually, if you look at a Jody Morris plus, he was one of them, I think it's fair to say.
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah, so I wasn't particularly surprised by any of it, really. And there's a comment there about technically not... He's an academy player, Copland, so not necessarily on a pro contract.
God bless the nerds. Well done. I salute you.
So I think it was a retained list that many of us would have expected. And I think, to be honest, the Charlie Austin signing has been kind of nailed on for a few weeks. I don't think it's a shock. So...
Alex, Vic makes a good point there. Retained doesn't necessarily mean that they are firmly part of Flynn's first team plans. If I just bring that list of names up again, I mean, obviously it's pure speculation, but you can go one of two ways. There's been a lot of talk about Hutton leaving because other teams might fancy him, particularly ones who managed to somehow bottle a 4-0 lead in a playoff game in unbelievable circumstances. On the other end of the coin, you've got players like Adeloy, who we've mentioned a few times, who we've not necessarily seen the best of, and he may yet find his way out of the club. I mean, I'm hoping not. I would like to see him given a proper chance. But what's your thoughts, Alex? Any names there that you still expect to maybe leave the club?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know if this is controversial or not because he did so well, but I would probably cash in on Romeo Hutton. I think.
I would 100%.
I think it's the right time to do it because I feel like I just get the impression that he's just looking for the move anyway, and we've already got a ready-made replacement in Lavinia who can play his position. I think if a good offer comes in, cash in. I think sometimes you've just got to do that, and you've got to know the right time to sell. I think if he stays at Swindon Town, he'll be a great player for his next season. But I think it wouldn't be the worst thing if we took that opportunity. But I'm not saying sell him for peanuts. It's only if the right offer comes in.
Dan, you seem to instantly go head in hands as I said. I completely agree.
I would like to challenge this notion, and it happens with the odd player from time to time. Oh, they don't look interested. Like after Christmas, when a lot of people have said his form's dipped off, like his assists post-Christmas have been absolutely fantastic. He has been one of the best players this year. In another year, might have won player of the season. I don't know. I just think that's a lazy assumption. Not interested. Dipped off. He wants to move. How does anyone know that? They don't. He's been really good. And as to whether we'd sell him for peanuts, of course we'd sell him for peanuts. So just don't sell him. Just get the extra year out of him. Is it worth selling him for 150k plus a friendly against Peterborough? Really? Right. No, is the
You're
answer.
talking
Was
dirty
selling
us
Ben
here now,
Gladwin?
Dan. Talk
Was
more about these
selling Ben
friendlies.
Gladwin 75k or whatever it was worth it? No.
Well, that was creative accounting, wasn't it? Ooh, allegedly.
Oh.
There is the accusation that Hutton can't actually defend. That a few people have put. To clarify my own position, I agree with the point Alex made that I think Lavinier is a ready-made replacement and can do just as much, if not more, in my opinion, than Hutton can if given a run in the team. So if someone is going to come in and pay proper money, it would be a shame because of what he has offered. Like you said, Dan, you can't argue with the stats on the assists and stuff, but I don't think he would be a massive loss if we were to sell him for a half decent price.
Especially if you can bring someone in like with the money as well. It's all about your replacements and recruitment. And if it's like you talk about Ben Gladwin leaving for Peanuts, Dan, like that was a terrible decision because he left a massive hole in the squad. We could sell Hutton without damaging ourselves on the pitch, unless obviously we get an injury to Lavinia or something like that. And if it means
I think
that
Lavinia's gone now we've said that.
Yeah, probably. You never know with Nathan. Anyone could leave. Like we could be looking at like all of them heading off for some reason. But I just think like if it allows us to kind of move money around the board and bring in a position where we lack players, then I think it's a good idea.
Lavinia is good, by the way. Yeah.
They can cross the football, though. I mean, we don't have. If you think back over the years, I mean, I'm not just talking about Swindon. English football generally, people who can cross the football, they're pretty rare. I mean, how many times do you see them hit the first defender? Very, very often. And if you've got sort of somebody like Charlie Austin in the middle, get a decent ball in, he's going to score a goal. So you need you want somebody who can cross the ball. Simple as that.
Absolutely. All completely valid points. And this is what I always say when there's discussion points. The reason we love football is we can all sit in a line, watch the same game and still somehow have a completely different opinion on what we've watched. And that's why we love it. On the flip side, Joe, I'll start with you if I can. We've also got the actual released list here. Kean Harry's probably, well, Johnny Williams, obviously the biggest name there. Kean Harry's arguably not a surprise, but again, in a similar vein, he never really got a proper chance when he actually started to play anywhere near his potentially got injured. For me, I'm a little bit surprised by Dabre because whenever you hear about his loan spells in non-league, he always seems to be excelling here, there, or anywhere else.
Well, I guess my question would be which one? I mean, the loans this season have been so poorly managed and people have just been thrust out here, there and everywhere. I mean, last year it felt like because you had the two Scots and you had Ben Garner and we had a lot of updates on things like the post matches and the press conferences about keeping in touch. We had, quite condensed relationship with Chippenham Town, so people were training with us all week and then they were going out for the Thursdays, and that was of mutual benefit. This season people have been cast out to Hemel, Slough, Kidlington, Uffington, Whitehorse, all these bizarre teams the quality of like return. I mean, Oscar Massey went to Hungerford and then seemed to go completely anonymous. So if you're bringing in, ex-academy players from Devon, I'm from the next county along, Cornwall, they're not biggest places in the world. And if you're 18 years old and this is your first foray in football, where's your actual development plan for these people? I do think to get on to Williams, I'm getting into trouble online for talking about this anyway, because people are chipping in at me anyway.
If you're getting in trouble, we love it.
I didn't expect that Williams was going to stay. I'm sure that there'll be many offers or things to have like his head turned. I do think it speaks to myself like a lack of ambition to even suggest. I mean, the last I heard was still in talks with Rob Hunt. I've not heard an update on that.
Right back next season. Next season.
Well, maybe so. But it's just to not even make an offer. I mean, it feels like, January, let's be perfectly honest. We can talk about, what we see and we can fill in the gaps that was actually a really damaging time, not just for this squad, but, for this club. And the fact that somebody's going out the door and there's not been even a chance to make good is very disappointing. I mean, people are telling me that Johnny Williams is the highest paid player at Swindon, which I really don't think is the case. But then people have been telling me on Twitter today that Charlie Austin gets 25 grand a week. So there you go.
Don't forget, everybody knows somebody who knows somebody as well.
Well, quite exactly.
On the Williams thing, are you expecting Wrexham or Hibs?
I've heard that. Well, we know that Hibs are interested in them. That there's the McCurdy collection on there. If I think back to someone who's followed Welsh national team Cymru for all of these years, and the excitement of having Johnny Williams sign last season, and how that felt having someone of that prestige playing for us. I mean, Wrexham they might have had all these. Oh, it'd be funny to ask Gareth Bale or Robson Kanu will come out of retirement. If they actually have somebody who's from that, people will laugh and chuckle along. But we are talking about like a golden era. This is the first time that my old man, who's 63 years old this year, that he's actually seen his team get to major tournaments. We've got to 3 so far, and Williams has been in the squad for all of those. I mean, even if you think merchandising, a PR thing, it'll be massive for them if he went. And so it would be if they're interested, I think it'd be a no-brainer.
Got a message coming here saying couldn't afford Austin and Willow. Fans wanted Austin. He isn't on 25k a week.
Yeah, Joe.
Come on.
And then evening to the real EFL who have joined us as well. There's so many of you. Yes, well, that's because Swindon Town is without question. We may be a very mid-League 2 football club this season, but we are elite level fan content creators. There is so much on offer all of the time. Chris,
well, me and Ben had a little discussion about. Sorry, me and Ben. I don't want people to think that I thought Williams was actually on 25k. I was more thinking that was a ridiculous thing.
No, it's too late now, JR.
But me and Ben Nichols had a little chat on Twitter today about how.
Wait, hang on. Ben tweeted. You're joking.
I know. He is like the second Swindon news source. Never mind, follow the club. Just set an alert on Ben, and you'll get to know absolutely everything. But we'd had this thing about Williams obviously too expensive, but I think that was the reason the club gave that we had to get rid of McDonald, and it was so expensive that he had to go for free. But Williams was so expensive that we couldn't take a fee from Hibs. Explain to me how that makes sense.
No, completely. And there's Ben saying hello as well.
Hi, Ben. Eating his basmati sarnies.
Yeah. I tell you what, you particularly the LSP boys, you're loving the basmati rice and ketchup sandwich conversation, aren't you? Absolutely loving it.
It's just like going savages, the lot of you. But...
Food chat is very big in amongst FRA episodes. Chris, I mentioned Kean Harries there, a player who, in my opinion, obviously never got a long enough runs for us to really see what he could offer. Perhaps not a surprise to most that he's on the release list, but a little bit unfortunate maybe.
Yeah, I think when he first started, I can remember, I'm not one for stats and thinking about all the games and goals, who scored and everything, but I remember him, he was quite exciting. But he's been very unlucky with the injuries and everything. And then he's had his games where it's like, okay, no, you're just not going to make it. So I'm not surprised that he's on there. But yes, probably unfortunate with the injuries.
No, definitely. Final question, and then I'll let you all go and enjoy your weekends. If I could ask you to sum the season up in, I was going to say 5 words, but I know there's a few of you who would have quite a few words they'd like to use. So I'll up it to maybe 10 words or less. Could you please do so? And Dana, as a wordsmith like yourself, I'll let you start. How would you describe the season just gone?
Oh,
I'll do.
There you go. Sandro Di Michele. There you go. It's 3 words. Football terrorist.
But well, I mean, it sums it up perfectly well, I think. Alex?
Oh, well, a 3-word one would just be bad to worse.
Nice. Like it. Rich?
Yeah, green shoots are overrated and misleading. Is probably the take that I take. The amount of times this year we said green shoots and it didn't occur to anything. It's done. It's over. We move on. Is where I would go with this season.
I think that was quite close to 10 as well. Joe?
I'm thinking, so many wasted opportunities.
Nice. Chris?
Well, I think I can say it in one: frustrating.
Yeah. And final words for tonight go to Vic. How would you sum it up in 10 words or less, please, sir?
I'd just like to say thank you for putting the year of my birth next to my name on the there. This is very good of you. Disappointing, depressing, frustrating. There you go.
Sums it up perfectly. You've all been a joy. And again, like I said at the start, thank you all very much. I'm fortunate enough that I might not get to every single one, but I do watch or listen to as much as I can of everything you do. And I genuinely really enjoy it. I try and pop comments in just to let you know it's been a privilege for me to welcome you all on. And hopefully you won't be strangers and we'll get to see you on the Fools panel again sometime in the new season. But thank you all very much. As for us, Monday night sees something different again from Fools Rush In. As hopefully everything goes to plan, and we will have Swindon Town women's captain Alice Bowden actually presenting her own special episode of Fools Rush In. So it'll essentially be a case of Alice and friends. There'll be none of your usual fools on the panel on Monday night. Actually, Chris, is there any OSC coming up in the next week or so, or are you taking a bit of time off?
With I'm doing it. We're not taking a break. So we've got Giulio Grazioli on Monday.
Oh, of course, yes, I saw that. Huge.
Yeah, him coming on Monday. The following week, we've got Brian Howard, and we're just waiting to organise Michael Timlin and Vic. Who was the other one? Oh, Andrew Nicholas.
Nice.
We've got quite a few
Huge
coming up in the next few weeks.
Nice. And Rich, what's coming up on LSP, or are you going to give everyone a little break?
No, breaks are for suckers. No, we go through. I think we've got all filler, no killer next week. So me and JR are going to do our little awards episode, plus going through our predictions from earlier in the season and how they all panned out. And then we go into a summer schedule, which is some players. So Michael Timlin's already recorded. Kasali Inca Kasau has already recorded. Jimmy Glass has already recorded. And I've got about 4 others that will record, hopefully. So the summer will be 4. And then after that, we'll be talking about new signings, friendlies, and then the new season. So if all goes well, still two episodes a week, hopefully. But we'll see what happens.
Plenty to look forward to. And Alex, yourself, do you give... Oh, sorry. Go on, Chris.
No. I was just saying that on the friendlies. I don't know if anybody's seen that we're playing Hereford on Tuesday, the 18th of July. It's not on our website, but Hereford have done it.
Dancing sideways.
Yeah. Talk about technical glitches. I'm completely listening to what's being said, and the titles are just playing itself. Yes, I saw that earlier, and it's really unfortunate because it's not a bad one for potentially me to go to, but it's the 1 week in the summer I booked a summer holiday, so I can go.
I'll be sneaking into Bristol City at midday that day to see if I can see the other game on the same day, which is at Bristol City's development ground, which is behind closed doors. We'll see.
I know that we've got no broadbenters today, but Vic, very much enjoyed your comms for the Cadiz friendly with Steve, and hope to see that again. I know that they cover the friendlies usually live on a live blog, don't they? So,
well, thank you very much.
Live spaces, that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, Vic, I very much enjoyed the. I have absolutely no idea what's going on. Nearer to the end.
I think there were 15 players on either side at the end, and it was just chaos. but it was fun because Steve is brilliant, and to talk to the kitman, we should say life of a kitman, of course.
Yes.
They're doing Matthew Baldry this week. We should mention him, of course.
You mentioned him, of course, yes. Retirement confirmed.
Yeah, a great servant for the town, and so unlucky with injuries. But yeah, Steve and Joan are fabulous people to talk to. We had them on last Monday. Always a laugh, always willing to talk, always good fun. Nice people. That's what you want at the heart of your football club. Nice people.
Absolutely. And Alex, not forgetting you. Have you got much planned over the summer, or do you give yourself a break?
Well, it's obviously not a great time for doing match vlogs over the summer,
of course.
but what I like to do is I like to kind of turn my attention towards the wider League Two over the summer. So I like to kind of look at what other teams are doing, like maybe as the transfers come in. It's interesting to see, especially if you think about last season, how teams like Stevenage and Carlisle kind of rebuilt themselves, and basically take a look at how the league's shaping up. Next season, guys, is going to be a tough League Two with Wrexham and Notts County and the boys coming down from League One as well. It is going to be a tough one. So this summer, to see what Wrexham do, especially in the market, I think is going to be crucial. So going to be reacting to that. And then if we get some transfers and stuff in, obviously doing a bit of reaction to that. But I'll probably be doing more listening to Loath Strangers and what you guys are doing than any of that as well to get me through. So I appreciate all the work that you guys do.
Thank you very much. And again, thanks to everyone for taking their time. Apologies to Kev that its technical issues just didn't resolve themselves. So we got to see him plenty, but couldn't hear anything. Thanks to Dan, who's disappeared. Thank you to everyone. Fools Rush In will be back at their normal time of 9 o'clock on Monday, all being well with the Alice Bowden, I can't even talk anymore, special. You mentioned, Rich, your end of season awards, the ones we had to postpone because Monday's episode just went on and on and on and on. I've moved to Bank Holiday Monday, so that's something else to look forward to coming up. Thank you to everyone who's watched, joined in the chat. We appreciate that. If you are listening back on audio, thank you very much as well. Once again, thank you to all the guests for tonight. Really appreciate your time. And if we don't speak in the meantime, hope you all have a wonderful summer. But from Fools Rush In, until next time, good night.
Take my hand, take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love.